Hey guys, welcome back to the Toys for Life shop. Unfortunately, winter has started taking over the Midwest, and that means the C5 is not going anywhere for a while. The good news is this gives me plenty of time to dig a little deeper into the C5's deferred maintenance items. Let's start with everyone's favorite, the fiercely debated topic of engine oil, including brand, type, and how often you should change yours, and we'll even touch on oil filters and a whole lot more. Next. Toys for Life. So what kind of oil does your C5 require? For the answer to this seemingly simple question, let's refer to something that most car guys never seem to want to do, including myself, and that is refer to the GM C5 Corvette Owner's Manual. And don't worry, if you don't have yours, you can find a link to it at the GM website right here. And right away, I see something that I believe is the source of much confusion. The manual shows a picture of an oil cap with the Mobil 1 logo on it, and chances are the oil cap on your C5 looks the same. I definitely think they're using the power of suggestion.
You're becoming so sleepy.
To get you to buy Mobil 1 oil as opposed to other perfectly acceptable brands of synthetic oil. Now ask yourself, why would GM have Mobil 1's logo on the Corvette's oil cap and in the owner's manual? Now I can't prove it, but it might have something to do with the fact that ExxonMobil has been the official supplier of lubricants to the United States GM dealers network since 1990, and that may have something to do with it. GM made a statement that they picked their lubricant provider based on quality, reliability, and that provider's ability to help GM grow their business. That last statement,
that just rubs me the wrong way.
I would prefer GM to have said, the lubricant provider's ability to help us provide superior protection to our customers' vehicles. But anyway, none of that is implying that Mobil 1 is a bad oil. In fact, I think it's a fantastic oil. But it also doesn't mean there's not other great brands of synthetic oil that you can consider for your C5 Corvette. More on that in just a little bit. Getting back to the C5's owner's manual, specifically the section that says what kind of oil to use, it points out two things to look for. First, use GM spec 4718M oil. And second, make sure you use 5W30. Unless you can't find any of that, then you can use 10W30 so long as it's above 0 degrees out. And also there's a third thing, which is you're not supposed to use any other viscosity oils, and it specifically says not to use 20W50. Let's dig into those requirements a little bit further. First, what is GM spec 4718M? It was a tougher oil standard by GM that was mainly required for Corvettes and Cadillacs. It was a requirement because Corvettes and Cadillacs' oil temperatures would typically get hotter than other vehicles that came with LS engines, likely because Corvettes and Cadillacs were driven much harder and sometimes even tracked. Additionally, their sleek front-end designs didn't have anywhere near the cooling capacity of something like a Silverado, for example, so their elevated oil temperatures were common, and the GM 4718 spec allowed the oil to deal with those elevated temps. Alright, so just pick up GM spec 4718M oil and you're good to go, right? Well, not exactly. In 2010, the 4718M spec essentially disappeared when it was superseded by the brand new GM dexos 1 standard. Fast forward 5 years and in 2015, dexos 1 Gen 2 superseded dexos 1, and just recently last year in late 2021, dexos 1 Gen 3 superseded dexos 1 Gen 2. That's a lot of superseding. Just because a new standard supersedes the old, it doesn't necessarily mean that new standard is better. And so back in 2011, some car guys started to notice that many of the oils that were now meeting the dexos 1 standard were combinations of conventional and synthetic, otherwise known as synthetic blends, when in the past, all of the oils that met the GM 4718M standard oil were full synthetic oils, and that seemed a little bit too convenient. There was a fair bit of speculation that even though GM was now saying you can use the Dexos 1 oil, that some of the extra protection that used to be offered by the 4718M oil was now missing. Now, I wasn't able to find a smoking gun, but by scouring through Corvette owner's manuals from 2003 through 2016, I did find a continually evolving choice of words that GM used to describe the Corvette's oil requirements, and I find that pretty interesting. Starting with the 2003 Corvette Owner's Manual, GM states that you must use the 4718M oil spec, and if you don't, it could result in engine damage that might not be covered by the warranty. The manual also specifically states that not all synthetics meet this spec, and the only mention of Mobil 1 oil is that your C5 comes from the factory with it. Nowhere in the manual is there any requirement that you must use Mobil 1 oil. Jumping ahead 7 years to the 2010 C6 Corvette Owner's Manual, and this is 1 year before the Dexos 1 requirement came out, and the language used to describe the oil requirements is virtually identical to the language we saw in the 2003 Owner's Manual. Now just jumping ahead 1 year to the 2011 C6 Corvette Manual, which is the first manual published after Dexos 1 standard was introduced, the manual now says, Dexos certified oil is all that is needed for good performance and protection. Your Corvette is filled at the factory with Dexos approved oil. Mobil 1, Dexos 1 is recommended, and there is no longer any mention whatsoever of the GM 4718M standard. Jumping ahead just 1 more year to the 2012 C6 Owner's Manual, and now it says Dexos certification synthetic blend is all that is needed for good performance and protection. Mobil 1 Dexos 1 is recommended for all dry sump engines, and there is no mention whatsoever of what oil comes in the 2012 C6 Corvette. And finally, in the 2016 C7 Corvette Manual, AC Delco Dexos Synthetic Blend is recommended. For track events, use Mobil 1 Dexos 1 15W50, and it says that Mobil 1 Dexos 1 is recommended for dry sump engines. So if all of this seems needlessly confusing to you, then you're not alone. So here's what I believe are the key takeaways. First, always use a 5W30 oil in your C5 Corvette. And second, for the love of God, for the love of Harley Earl and Zora Arkus Duntov, don't you dare run any oil in your C5 that's not a full synthetic. So what do I believe is the best synthetic oil on the market? That is an incredibly difficult question because modern synthetics are engineered and designed to do so many things, such as lubricate and prevent wear, resist thermal breakdown, keep your pistons and combustion chamber clean, flow well in cold temperatures, and then, of course, keep your viscosity in super high temperatures. Prevent deposits and sludge. And additionally, modern synthetics are designed to maintain their superior performance characteristics over a greater percentage of the oil change interval as compared to their conventional counterparts. So at the end of the day, I think if you randomly picked 20 lubrication engineers and asked them what the best synthetic oil was, you'd likely get about 10 different answers. As for me, I would, and I have gone with several different brands of synthetics for my C5 and other cars. I would just make sure that the brand that you buy lists the following specs. Stay tuned for part 2. We'll cover oil filters and how often you should change your oil. Thanks for watching.